Namaste. Good afternoon. This is Dr. Uma Kiruvital, Faculty of Agricultural and Veterinary Sciences, Jayoti Vidyapeeth Women's University, Jaipur. As you know, I'll be taking metabolism and bioenergetics course this semester. And in the previous session, we have looked into glycolysis, that is the primary catabolic pathway for glucose through which either in anaerobic organisms it will lead to fermentation, or in aerobic organisms it will lead to Krebs cycle and then the electron transport chain. So as I had told you, so we will be in this session we will be dealing with the Krebs cycle or the citric acid cycle. That is the way by which carbon dioxide is produced in our body. Like in glycolysis, what happened was glucose, that is a 6-carbon compound, was lysed by our bodily enzymes, the cellular enzymes in the cytosol, and it led to the production of 2 pyruvate molecules. Now, if and pyruvate is a 3-carbon compound. So finally, the the 6-carbon compound and all the 6 carbons are still remaining, as in like we have 6-carbon compound in glucose, and we are finally ending up with 2 3-carbon compounds, that is 2 moles of pyruvate per mole of glucose. So glycolysis doesn't release any carbon dioxide. Now this carbon dioxide that is lost in our body, like when we are breathing out, it takes up carbon, like we will be breathing in oxygen and breathing out higher quantity of carbon dioxide, right? So how that happens? That actually happens through the citric acid cycle or the Krebs cycle. So I'll show you what will be happening in citric acid cycle. So over here we have the pyruvate, and then what happens is pyruvate in the presence of pyruvate dehydrogenase enzyme. Now that is a multi-enzyme complex, and it is one of the most important enzymes in terms of aerobic respiration, because that is what commits the pyruvate that is formed in glycolysis to form acetyl-CoA, and thereby commits it to enter the citric acid cycle. And this process is fully aerobic. This can only happen in the presence of air. Now, if you look at the entire cycle, you will be like, there isn't any oxygen being utilized over here. So why does this happen only in the presence of oxygen? So the thing is, if you are looking over here in the reaction, NAD plus is giving NADH plus H plus, but this NAD plus can only be formed by electron transport chain when the available NADH plus H plus, the reduced form, is going through the electron transport chain and releases the NAD plus. So this proton will be transported across the membrane through proton pumps, and then the NAD plus is generated, and this NAD plus regeneration is required for this process to happen. And now there is also the step where again the alpha ketoglutarate to succinyl-CoA. So again the 5-carbon compound is converted to a 4-carbon compound, and even in this we will have NAD plus giving NADH plus H plus, and then there is the conversion of GDP to GTP, and then there is an energy consuming step, the FADH2 to FAD, and these are all like things that will be happening. So the compound, the energy rich compound production will happen only if they are being regenerated by the electron transport chain. And that is one major requirement for Krebs cycle to happen. And that is why that is aerobic process. Now, if we are coming into the steps for this one, so there is a pyruvate in presence of pyruvate dehydrogenase complex. It will release one carbon dioxide. This is the first step where one carbon dioxide. So there are 3 steps where carbon dioxide is released. So isocitrate is isocitrate is a 6 carbon compound, and then the alpha ketoglutarate is a 5 carbon compound, and from there succinate is a 4 carbon compound. So this is step 1, step 2, and step 3, where the carbon dioxide molecules are released. So once pyruvate dehydrogenase catalyzes this step and one NADH2 is produced, then the acetyl-CoA is formed, and then the acetyl-CoA combines with oxaloacetate in the presence of citrate synthase to give citrate. Now citrate in the presence of aconitase enzyme will become cis-aconitate. I'm sorry, there's a typo over here. It becomes cis-aconitate, and then in the presence of, again, aconitase will convert this aconitate into isocitrate. Now, the after isocitrate is formed, then isocitrate dehydrogenase will convert this by converting one NAD plus to NADH2. It will give alpha ketoglutarate, and then in the presence of alpha ketoglutarate dehydrogenase, one CO2 will be released and one NAD plus will be converted into NADH2, and then succinyl-CoA will be formed, and this in the presence of succinyl thiokinase, one GDP will be converted to GTP in this step to provide one succinate, and then there will be the formation of fumarate and malate, and then finally the oxaloacetate is regenerated. So the enzymes over here are succinate dehydrogenase and fumarase and malate dehydrogenase. So these 2 enzymes are actually very important in terms of determining the cell viability, because these are very key steps in the Krebs cycle. And I had mentioned in the previous step itself, that in the previous session itself, that Krebs cycle, this happens in the mitochondria. So this succinate dehydrogenase is an inner mitochondrial membrane enzyme, and so this is also very important in terms of like assessing the viability of the cells. If you are using the tetrazolium salts and all, they will mostly be involved in the estimation of the amount of this enzyme that will be present in the cell, and depending on that, the viability of the cell will be calculated. So that is the base of citric acid cycle. So the if we are getting into the various steps of citric acid cycle. So like the first step, as I had told, is oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvate to acetyl-CoA by the pyruvate dehydrogenase complex. And this is the connecting link between glycolysis and the TCA cycle. And then in the next step, oxaloacetate condenses with acetyl-CoA to form citrate. So this is inhibited by ATP if there is excess NADH, or if there is a lot of citrate present in the cell, then citrate is a competitive inhibitor of this enzyme, citrate synthase. So once this is happening, then the citrate is isomerized to isocitrate, and this is a two-stage reaction of dehydration and then followed by hydration. So water is once removed and then water is again added, and thereby this citrate becomes isocitrate, and then the isocitrate dehydrogenase catalyzes the conversion of isocitrate to alpha ketoglutarate. So in there, actually the intermediate formed is oxalosuccinate, and then that is converted to alpha ketoglutarate, and this involves the liberation of carbon dioxide. So it is like an allosteric enzyme, and that is activated by Mg2 plus, ADP, and calcium ions, and it is inhibited by NADH and ATP. That is basically like makes sense, because NADH and ATP are the molecules that can provide energy, and so as long as NADH is there, NAD plus will not be available, and so there is no NAD plus available to be converted into NADH, so it will be inhibited. And then again, if ATP is there, the cell has got enough energy, then why to go through the process of the Krebs cycle? So it will be inhibited by ATP and NADH. Now, the next step is the conversion of alpha ketoglutarate to succinyl-CoA. That happens with the liberation of carbon dioxide. And again, alpha ketoglutarate dehydrogenase, similar to pyruvate dehydrogenase, is a multi-enzyme complex. So these multi-enzyme complexes are very important in terms of regulation of citric acid cycle. So please keep that in mind. And then once alpha ketoglutarate dehydrogenase is converting alpha Kg to succinyl-CoA, then it's the succinyl-CoA is converted to succinate by succinate thiokinase. So that is a GDP to GTP phosphorylation. It's not ATP, ADP to ATP, but GDP to GTP that is happening, and that is these reactions are known as substrate level phosphorylation. Like I believe I did not mention this in the glycolysis step. So there are the oxidative phosphorylations and the substrate level phosphorylations that are happening, like the formation of the formation of pyruvate from phosphoenol pyruvate. There is an ATP formation, ADP to ATP conversion. So these and from the 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate to also when the phosphate is removed, then also there is an ATP formation over there. So these steps are actually known as substrate level phosphorylation. So in this step also, like the succinyl-CoA, when it's converted to succinate, there is a GDP to GTP formation, and that is also a substrate level phosphorylation. So once that happens, then again, there is a succinate dehydrogenase catalyzes the conversion of the succinate that is formed to fumarate. So that produces FADH2, and then malate is produced. So fumarase catalyzes the conversion of fumarate to malate by addition of H2O. Since fumarate and malate are both four carbon compounds, there is only an addition of water molecule that's happening over there. And once malate is then oxidized to oxaloacetate by malate dehydrogenase. So this is where the third and the final synthesis of NADH occurs. So the first NADH is synthesized in the conversion of pyruvate to pyruvate to acetyl CoA. Then the second one, isocitrate to alpha ketoglutarate. Then alpha ketoglutarate to succinyl CoA, and then malate to oxaloacetate. But the pyruvate to acetyl CoA is the committing step. It is not included in the Krebs cycle as such. So we assume that there are three NADH molecules that are being produced by the Krebs cycle itself. So this finally, since oxaloacetate is regenerated by the malate dehydrogenase enzyme, so the two carbon dioxide molecules, like one is released in the formation of acetyl CoA, and that is not included. Then finally, the acetyl CoA that enters, one carbon dioxide is released in the formation of alpha ketoglutarate from isocitrate, and the next one is released when alpha Kg becomes succinyl CoA. And so both the all the three carbon dioxide, all the three carbons of the pyruvate have now been released as carbon dioxide, and high energy phosphate molecules and NADPH, that is NADH molecules and FADH molecules that can release ATP through electron transport chain have been formed. So I was telling the energy equivalence of NADH in glycolysis, that one NADH molecule is equivalent to 3 ATP molecules. So one FADH2 that is produced in the conversion of succinate to fumarate. So since the FADH2 is produced, one FADH2 molecule is equivalent to 2 ATP molecules. So NADH2 is equivalent to 3 and FADH2 is equivalent to 2 ATP molecules. So now we have this 3 NADH that is equivalent to 9 ATP. The one FADH2 giving 2 ATP. And so then there is also the ATP and the GTP production. So total of 12 ATP that is produced from one acetyl. Yeah, so if we are looking into the energy equivalence of this one, so there are 3 NADH, 1 FADH2 and 1 ATP that is produced in this cycle. So since 3 molecules of NADH is 9 ATP and 1 molecule of FADH2 is 2 ATP and the 1 molecule of ATP itself. So finally we will have 12 molecules of ATP per mole of acetyl CoA that has been utilized. And now if we have like 12 of ATP and then 1 NADH2 that was produced at the beginning, so that will be 15, and then 8 ATP that were so this 15 into 2 would give like total of 30 ATP. And then in the glycolysis also, we have 8 ATP that is produced. So actually the total oxidation of 1 mole of glucose can give about 38 moles of ATP molecule, 38 moles of ATP. And that is the total energy produced from 1 mole of glucose. Though actually it doesn't give that much because there is energy losses that are happening and all those extra processes that are happening. So in essence, what happens is 1 mole of glucose gives about 30 to 32 moles of ATP. But the theoretical value is 1 mole of glucose gives 38 moles of ATP. So kindly 1 mole of glucose gives 38 moles of ATP. So kindly keep that in mind as well. That will be all for this session. Thank you. Have a good day.